Today we're joined by Dean Cooper, whose journey behind the kit has taken him from garage bands to some of the biggest stages around. We'll talk about his early influences, the hustle of breaking into the scene, and the lessons learned from decades in music. Dean shares the stories, the struggles, and the moments that make a drummer's career unforgettable. Welcome to the Fully Vented podcast. Now here's your host, Jared Fallon.
All right, so let's run into it. All right, Dean. Can you do me a favor? Can you state your full name, where you're from, and what dates did you work at OCDP?
Yeah, my name is Dean Cooper, and from Orange County, born and raised, and then lived in LA, and then moved all the way across the country. But I was at OCDP from 2002 to 2005. So about three and a half years in the heyday.
Sweet. Now this is going to be the rapid fire ones. Ready for it?
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Describe OCDP.
The best drums in the world, made by the most questionable people on earth.
Okay, I like that one. Describe the music scene during your time in Orange County.
Well, a lot of punk. This is early 2000s, my time there, but even just a few years before, late 90s, a lot of punk, a lot of ska, and then a lot of post-hardcore, screamo, any band playing that type of music was playing something made by OCDP. And the name was synonymous, I would say, first with the snare sound, because Abe Cunningham, Chad Sexton, Adrian Young, and then Travis Barker, John Otto. I know I'm leaving guys out, but it's just like that was identifiable. And even guys that didn't play OCDP, Darren Pfeiffer of Goldfinger or whatever, it was just like, that's an OC snare, or that's a snare that wants to sound like an OC snare, because it was so popular and prevalent. So
yeah, totally.
Just a lot of punk, alternative rock in Orange County at that time.
All right. Favorite bands or drummers during your time at OCDP?
Travis Barker was a big influence on me. At the time, I would say my favorite, but I wasn't like a crazy Travis file. but I latched onto his drumming heavily. And then as the music, like we got Finch, we got Alex Pappas from Finch. I liked his style a lot. Riley Breckenridge of Thrice. And let's see. Oh, Adam Willard. Adam Willard's one of the best. And then he came on to OCDP. So there were a lot of drummers I loved that didn't play OCDP, even that were, current. I like a lot of older drummers because that's what I grew up with. Mitch Mitchell, Ginger Baker, Hal Blaine. But as far as OCDP artists, those were the guys I liked, or I don't know, sort of
Gotcha. Yeah.
got my interest the most.
So ready? Do me a favor. Need you to travel back in time. Describe the physical shop.
Yeah. So when I started, it was one building, and it was rectangular metal and cement, a couple mangy workbenches, and then a table for cutting wrap. In the back corner was a separate router table saw room, and there was a giant air compressor in the back. And then there was also another table in the back where Dave Good would be cutting out and sanding vents all day. And then there was like packaging. There was uh, shelves of all the wraps, and then even some wrap that was in tubes, like the brass metal wrap that was used on Taylor and Dave's matching kits. There was some of that left over in the top. And then on the shelves down on the floor, there was a wall of hoops, the hoop wall. And the shelves down on the floor were all the kits that were in various stages of assembly. And see, this was before we had a sanding room, a dirty room, and a clean room. So like everything was done in the same room. I could go on for a long time, but I'll just leave it at
Yeah.
that for now.
All right. Describe John Machado.
John Machado. See, I knew him when I was a little kid. When I was like 7 or 8, I went to the OCDP drum store, which was in Lake Forest, where my dad and I went, and I played the Tommy Lee kit. That was like the Tommy Lee kit they made, big purple drums with DW lugs. And I remember John was in there and Daniel was in there, and um, John Machado, he wore the same thing every day: cut off T-shirt, shorts, up to here, short shorts, workout shorts, a mullet that wouldn't quit. It was a great mullet too. Like it was top notch mullet. Had a beard. Very nice guy. I liked him a lot. He was very chill. Um, he might wear a sweater when it was like freezing in the shop, and we're all like bundled up, and he's got a sweater. Uh, Turns out that he drank way too much vodka back in the day and couldn't feel temperature anymore. So it just
Oh,
did. Uh, but yeah, John was cut off sleeves, short shorts, mullet, nice guy.
business in the front, party in the back. All right. Describe Daniel Jensen.
Daniel Jensen, uh, lively, very friendly. Even if he didn't know you, he was nice to you like he did know you. Um, he had great stories. Every time he'd come into the shop, by this time he was Travis's tech. So there was, he wasn't in the shop a lot. Uh, Usually, if he did come in, it was to pick up something for Travis. Um, but nice guy, crazy stories, crazy guy. Um, and Yeah, he was really passionate about the brand. Um, and you did not want to mess with him, especially at a NAMM show. He didn't care where he was.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
can you describe a vented snare and who do you think recorded that sound the best?
Vintage snare. Loud, bright, articulate. Uh, a 10 gauge shotgun. Like not even a 12. It was a 10 gauge. Unmistakable sound. Um, to me personally, my favorite version of the sound. So again, this is just me. I
Mhm.
liked the Return of the Aquabats, the album that Travis was on. I thought that sound of that snare was great. And then the Boxcar Racer album, those are my two favorite vintage snare sounds because they were very bright, but there was body to them in a unique way that I thought that was my favorite version.
All right. Describe the experience around NAMM.
Mayhem and excitement.
All right, I like that one.
Yeah.
Um, So we're going to start transitioning now to these are going to be the more in-depth ones. How did you hear about OCDP? Were you a drummer?
Yeah, I was a drummer. I first heard about OCDP from a friend of mine named Scott, and um, I knew about the brand. I think probably from just drum magazines and um, people that because I don't even think I had seen the Return of the Aquabats picture, that famous, Travis with his hands in the vents. Like that sells 100,000 snares right there alone. But um, my friend Scott, he had a 20 ply vented, and I was getting into that sound. I had heard about it, so I went to check it out, and he said, um, I think I was going to order mine. And he said, "Well, let's go to the shop. I'll take you there," because he really wanted to be in the scene and the vibe. So that was my first trip to the shop. Um, so it was kind of through him that I knew about the brand, and that's when I ordered my first OC snare, which was a 6x14, 20 ply vented gold glass wrap.
Sick. Yeah, no, it's cool that you were local, that you could just, you were fortunate enough to be able to just go, hey, let's take a ride.
Yeah, it was.
So before OCDP, what were you doing?
Uh, so I had a band. We were called the Classics, and so that was like, what I was doing, and that's what I wanted to do. My regular job was a bank teller at Bank of America. Um, so I didn't like it. Uh, so after my first trip to the shop to order the snare, uh, I just thought, man, I'd love to work there. So, so I called them up and I was like, "Are you guys hiring at all?" And I probably spoke to John, just previous years and years ago. The, the maybe it was West Coast Drum Center, but John was working at a shop and we had some kits rewrapped by basically, it was OCDP rewrapping the kits, but John worked there, and I think I noticed that connection when I visited the actual factory. Uh, was I was like, oh yeah, I remember you when we got our kits rewrapped, kind of thing. So yeah, I called them up and asked if they were hiring, and they said yeah, they were going to. So it was not for the money, but it was
Totally.
for the radness of making drums all day, which can't beat that.
No, not at all. So like when did you start working at Orange County officially?
I think it was at the very beginning of 2002, because I remember I was working at the bank when 9/11 happened, and that was an awkward day. And so yeah, I think it was very early 2002, maybe late 2001, but it was around that time. Uh,
Gotcha.
because I knew I was in there for sure 2002.
Okay. So like before working at Orange County, did you have any woodworking or drum building experience?
I messed with a pearl snare. I had to make it vented, and my grandpa was like the woodworker of the family. He was old school, you know, build additions onto your own house, because he likes to, and he can do fractions in his head. So I really admired that, and I was like, what can I use to drill out, the sides of this snare? It was a So like I experimented on my own with that, um, just trying to get the sound that get the product that I saw pictures of and I liked the sound of, and it kind of worked a little bit. And I thought, oh, that's cool. But before that, I had just disassembled and reassembled kits if like going to get rewrapped, so just that stuff. But I didn't know any of the fine tuning of edging or snare beds or anything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, Orange County is single-handedly responsible for countless kids drilling holes in their drums to try to replicate that sound, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Um, so what was day to day like working at the shop?
Day to day at the shop was we'd arrive drummers hours, so like 10 a.m., 10:30 maybe, and we would sort of look at what needed to be done, what we were working on previously that we didn't get done the day before, sort of assessing the needs of the day. Uh, and then we'd get started on that. Usually it was kind of, a slow burn of getting up into full like sanding parties, which I'll explain later, or edging, and you had to remember to turn the air compressor on first, because if you didn't turn that on, none of the uh, air blowers or pneumatic stuff would work. So it's like you got to turn the air compressor on if you're the first one in there. Um,
Gotcha.
or for wraps, it would be sort of assessing what needs to get cut today, what orders are we working on today, what needs to get powder coated, pick the parts for the powder coating. Um, and then if we were waiting on parts, like we'd have like 20 snares ready to go, but we're waiting on throw offs to come in, or we're waiting on die cast hoops. It's like build screws. So, you could just spend an hour or two just building screws, putting the washer in the, and are these the 20 plies or 30 plies, or is this the 6 ply, or, what's
Gotcha.
low? You just start doing that. And then, so yeah, there was kind of a rhythm like that, after lunch. We'd all kind of do lunch at the same time, and then we would just finish up, and we would usually get done around 6:30 maybe. In case you got a call from Daniel, or you got a call about, or we were finishing up an artist's kit, like we need this done by today, or this artist is coming in today to get this kit for tour. So there would be things that we would stop doing and
Yeah,
work on
like
just that
priority, yeah.
project. Um, so yeah, that was kind of how it went. It was pretty lax, but we would get down to business and get stuff done.
So did you do like multiple jobs there, or was it kind of like you just stuck to like, like you said, Dave Good was just like there doing vents, he was the vent guy, or did you kind of just kind of have your hand in everything?
The roles in the shop, there were, everybody would kind of start, if you were new there, you would start doing basic stuff, basic assembly, putting screws together, um, uh, just assembling kits or gathering parts that you need. And then, the next step up would be like spraying, spray the inside of the shell. How, and, one of the guys that had been there longer, like Jeremy or Max, they would usually tutor you and show you like how to do it right. Um, Steve Muncie, he mainly did drilling, in my time there, Corey Mansky did a lot of the rapping, and then Max took it over, and Max did most of the raps. Jeremy was the snare builder, like like 2 10 plies, so he would cut them down vertically and then, cut out what you need to get that 10 ply inside a tin. And we had a presser and press them together. He did a lot of the shell cutting, but for my time there, I did a little bit of everything because uh, you know, just I wanted to, for one, and I had, they could see that I was a good worker or a good enough. So, 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 I might help with wraps. I didn't do a lot of wrapping, but I did get into filing snare beds and doing snare beds. Everybody pretty much sanded edges at one point. And then I would cut shells down, and I got in the router room and I would do a routing, um, and like organize powder coating jobs, take those down. Kind of like some guys had specialized jobs. Everybody would chip in where it was needed, but as I remember it, Steve did drilling, Dave did vents, Max wraps, Jeremy shell construction. Um, I might be leaving stuff out, but that was kind of the
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
the
It seems
game.
like it was a cool place where like if you showed the initiative that like you wanted to learn or wanted to do more or lend a helping hand, like you were set up to succeed, like they would help you out or, make sure you were set up
Yeah,
to. Yeah, that's so cool. Um, as far as like
yeah.
the hierarchy and stuff, like who did you have to report to, or was like, did you have was John the guy that would run point, or
It seemed like Josh Lamb was the office or business liaison to us, and um, but John in the office, John and Josh were the two guys in the office every day. So we would get orders coming in from them, that they would take in the office. The office was in front. There was a showroom, and then there was the shop itself. And
gotcha.
again, it was shocking that like this now world famous company was in this. It was a sweatshop in Santa Ana, basically. And you know, a couple tables, a couple things, and like these top quality drums were coming out of this place. But yeah, we'd get new orders in like that, and Jeremy and Max were really the master builders. They were the guys that could do everything well, um, and yeah, we would just sort of get the orders that came in and prioritize.
Yeah, I guess you don't think about it, but like, as a kid, you're looking up on the website back in the day and you think like, this big massive company, like, you know what I mean? You have such top tier artists and you're not realizing that it's literally a tiny little shop with just like a handful of guys working on your drums. But I
Yeah.
guess they put themselves at such like a pedigree, like you don't really think about it, you know what I mean?
hmm Because it was all custom, and like the biggest players are playing the most custom looking kits. And my idea of a drum shop, I knew drum stores, and then I knew like the DW DVD, you know, of like I, it was called the American Dream or something, and it's like that's a big factory. And I thought, oh man, these things are coming out looking way more cool and customized. And then it's like, yeah, it's a real grassroots
Yeah,
uh,
totally.
location and building, but the work coming out was tremendous.
Do you think that people like notice the look and the sound more than say, you know what I mean, some of the other drums that were available at the time?
I think people noticed OCDP by the look because there were no rules. There was no um, standards to follow besides great craftsmanship. So the artistic version of it could be whatever you want, like 50% offset lugs. Who did that before? Besides the 1930s Ludwig Zephyr kit, where the rack tom was actually 50% offset, that was it. But so like nobody was doing that. Nobody was putting stars on a kit, you know. And I think uh, the high gloss kits was another thing. Bright, fluorescent, super deep bass drums. That was all OCDP, not to mention the snares. I mean, you could have a basic kit and then somebody has a snare that's a different color and there's holes in it. Like you're watching a live clip on MTV or whatever, and you're like, what's that? You know, just you could not beat the visuals. And we did whatever we wanted, you know, there was nothing off limits. If you had an idea, then you could work on it with scrap parts after the normal day, or you could, you know, ask one of the guys to help you with something. It was really the sky's the limit with creativity. And I think, it really helped having artists like Adrian Young, Chad Sexton, Travis Barker, and then John Otto, you know, getting these crazy looking custom kits with crazy custom sizes with these, you know, totally unique looking snares. It just, people noticed it whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you think about it too, during that time, you had bands that were, like nobody knew what new metal was, right? You have Limp Bizkit sitting there
Mm-hmm.
where the dude's got a snapback, or rocking a Yankees hat, and you're like, what is that? You know what I mean? With the
Yeah.
music, let alone the drums that are now like that sound. What is that? It's a new genre of music and a new sound.
Yeah. It was like you said, the look of the scene was the, the look of the drums was as unique as the scene coming out,
Yeah, totally.
whether it be the pop punk, you know, generation 2, whatever, the ska, the new metal. um it had a certain look that was very identifiable, and OCDP went along with that, defining the style, because
Mhm.
you could see that later with bands like, you know, when Census Fail came on board, or Finch came on board, or um, bands like
Thrice.
that, Thrice.
Mhm.
Um,
I think Tucker from Thursday also played, so that kind of, you know what I mean, that emo wave was also
yeah.
infused with the pop punk too, and the
Hmm.
ska
And then
stuff, and the new
and
metal.
then other companies started, for lack of a better word, copying. You
Yeah.
know, and we could get into this maybe on the Patreon, but like, there was nothing truthful about truth. That's all I'll say from experience.
A good time to mention for those who haven't subscribed or joined our Patreon yet. Now this is a good time to head over and join, so you can find out what Dean is going to speak the truth of later.
I don't want to
That's my little
disparage the
plug there. That's my.
guys, but just, yeah, there was stuff that was like, come on, man, that's not
Yeah.
cool.
No, totally. But like I'm even just sitting here thinking, it's almost like you expect a band like I remember it kind of blew my mind. You're watching Adrian with a light up. I mean, I didn't know it was acrylic at the time, you know what I mean? But you're watching
Hmm.
this light up kit with a female vocalist, you know what I mean, crushing it. And they're doing
Hmm.
this massive, you know what I mean? I think they even did the Super Bowl at that one point, and
Yeah,
you're looking at it, you're like, ska's in the forefront of like I'm hearing this on the radio. That, and
yeah.
Orange County was with them the whole time. Like you don't even think about it. You're hearing those drums as much as, you're seeing them.
And again, just doing crazy finishes, using materials that, uh, weren't necessarily popular for a while. Like
Or
acrylic
taken
was
seriously.
Ludwig
Yeah.
in the 70s, but OCDP comes along. Let's get a different color, or let's put lights inside the drum to light it up, or let's sandblast the inside of the drum and put a halogen in there so it looks like the drums are glowing. That was the unique stuff where OC just nobody else was doing that at the time.
And also, like, when you break it down, it's not even just kind of the groundbreaking visual. Like you said, the Ludwig Vista lights, they were always never known for having the best sound. It's just if you want to look cool on stage, you have to get them. But Orange County found a way to blend that, like, hey, your drums can sound just as good as they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of neckbeard bloggers talking about like, oh, they were just Keller shells that, they weren't that special. And
Anyone can do
what,
it.
and it's like, well, OC did it. And again, look at the roster of drummers that were literally being offered sponsorships and to be paid by the sponsors to play other drums. And they were like, no, we're going to do OCDP. They all sounded great. Daniel is a great tech. He's a great tuner. You could compare, like, if there were multiple drum kits in a rehearsal studio, or if there was something going on, you could compare them, and it's just like, these are cleaner, these are cutting through, they're not muddy, but they're deep. Another guy who I thought was an exceptional tuner was Max. Max could he had a great touch for tuning drums too. So it was but again, combining that super high pitched snare with very deep bass drums, your drum set would have a dynamic range totally different than anybody else, on the bill with you. If they were playing normal drums, it's like, well, this snare's higher, this bass drum's deeper. It's just the overall experience of those drums live stood out.
And in the studio too, I mean, budgets, like, this is before, tides had changed where there were still really good
Yeah.
budgets. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Productions were bigger. They were actually taking not just like, hey, we're gonna start like using different snares for different songs. You don't have to use the same snare for every song. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
you don't have to use the same kit. Like, you can swap things out like they did before, but you know what I mean? I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this was like such a unique time of combining both, production and everything like that, and the shifts with Pro Tools and stuff. So super
Mm-hmm.
cool time. Okay.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you describe your relationship with Daniel?
My relationship with Daniel was good. I didn't know him that well because he wasn't in the shop a lot. So I, would talk to him here and there. Um, but I was around him, when he was in the shop or at NAM, because we would each work the booth, 3 or 4 guys per day. Um, and just seeing him interact with artists or uh, fans, just he knew how to talk to people, and he really did care about the drums and the brand, and to get artists on board was very important to him. And just, I think everybody has a Daniel experience who knew him or met him back then, where he was just very cool to you. He was excited that you were an artist, and he just wanted to tell you about the best drums, which were OCDP.
Obviously, yeah.
And yeah, just outspoken about it. And so yeah, I didn't have very many one-on-one conversations with him. It was mainly the other guys in the shop and John Machado.
So you would say you had a closer relationship with John.
Yeah, yeah, closer to John.
So like how would you describe that? Your relationship with John, seeing how he's like there every day.
It was always good, and friendly. He's very relaxed. He was really nice to me and asked, how you doing? What's got any ladies in your life? I wasn't like a very outgoing, affable person. So it seemed like he cared about me and like who I was and how I was doing. We would talk randomly in the office sometimes, or just catch up, or he was a good dude to me.
Yeah, it seems like he's wasn't just the guy signing your paycheck, you know. All seemed like a very tight knit group, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brotherhood, and there's a lot about it that's more meaningful now looking back, because when you're that young, you know, what's the saying? Youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
It's like you don't realize how important something was, because ultimately most of us wanted to be professional drummers, or touring rock stars. But even in the midst of it, you knew that you were part of something special, that this meant a lot to many different people, and that you were part of something special.
Yeah, totally. So what were some of the coolest memories you have from working there? If you were to try to, think of a few off the top of your head.
Yeah, some of my favorite memories were like building a kit that day, or assembling part of it, and then making the front bass drum head, and then seeing it on TV that night. Because for like they would film like the Tonight Show with Jay Leno at like 4 or 5, so we would get a kit done by, I don't know, in the afternoon, and then whoever would pick it up, maybe the artists themselves would pick it up. They'd go to the studio, do the show with it, and then you would see it that night. Seeing stuff that you made on stage in an arena, or in a magazine, just to see and to know that like your hands were on this thing, like you put the edge on that, you sanded, you filed that snare bed, and now Adrian or Travis is playing it at
On
the
TRL
the
or
amp.
yeah.
Yeah, a TV show or like an amphitheater. It's just like th- that's very special and unique. There was a lot of times where we would finish up the day and go to a show, or we would, the artist wanted something, um, or they needed something, and we would finish up work and drive to the show to fix the snare, like in the parking lot. Like that was one thing that I thought was really important about OCDP's artist relations was, we're all young. I mean, we didn't have like families or responsibility. We just loved drums and loved drumming, and we really loved OCDP. So it's like, yeah, were you playing Chain Reaction, or the UCI Bryn Center, and you need a lug replaced? Yeah, we'll go. Are you playing at the Troubadour and you need new heads, or you need a rims mount? Like, yeah, let's go. Who wants to go? Um, and I mean, this is random, but I I think we all saw No Doubt like 8 times. just like they were huge at the time too, and I just remember seeing No Doubt a ton. Adrian would always invite us, and yeah, just like I saw them probably more than any band, not because I necessarily liked them. It was just like, oh, it's at you know the amphitheater or whatever. Like, yeah,
Yeah, like
let's
why
go. It'd
not,
be
right?
fun.
Yeah. So, you had mentioned Adrian. Had he come on board yet as a partner?
I don't know when Adrian came on as a partner. Um, I don't know when that part of the business happened. I know that, again, he would invite us all out to any show that they were playing locally. He even had an after party at his house in Long Beach. And but I don't know when the actual partnership happened. I I wasn't really keen to that
To
stuff.
that side of it, gotcha. But I also just want to go back to you had mentioned, when you're talking about going to the local shows or bringing lugs and stuff like that. It seems like a
Yeah.
lot of the bands that were on the roster or drummers, they seem to be local bands, and it in a way like they blew up just as fast as the local drum shop. Were guys coming in
Mhm.
just like like you said, Adrian? They're no doubt's massive. Were they just guys coming in like on a random day? You could be sitting there and Travis walks to the door to pick up his kit.
Um, my time there, Travis never came by. Uh, it was Daniel on his behalf. Adrian would come by. Um, yeah, he would come in, somewhat frequently when he was in town because, again, no doubt was touring a lot then. Some of the artists that were big or they were up and coming, they would come through when they were in town or off tour. Uh, Riley from Thrice or Alex from Finch. I'm trying to think like other memories. I think my second day there, the drummer for Head PE was getting like a
BC.
purple stain. BC, yeah, he came in and that was like my second day working there. There were a lot of people that wanted tours of the shop. Kids coming in. We call it the dog and pony show, just like showing them around and like,
This is where this
oh, is
happens.
that Travis's kid? Is that? Oh yeah,
I mean,
weird.
to be fair, Blink, I don't think anybody really anticipated Blink blowing up, and your time working there, I think he was already doing that reality show, right, with Meet the Barkers, was probably around that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I could
Um,
assume like he's at that like paparazzi style level at that point. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, he had bodyguards with him, and that was like the zenith of the Travis mania. Were those years like at Nam? Talk about Nam. So I think it must have been 2003 because they were still releasing videos for the Untitled album, and wherever he was at Nam, it was like a wall of 100 people just kind of moving with him. Like he's in the middle, and it's just like following him. So when he came by the OCDP booth, it's just like smashed full of people, and it was when they made the nudie kit of his wife at the
Oh,
time,
the
like
Shayna Moakler,
her
the yeah, I think that was
yeah
used in
her
that
her
video, Down, music video for
yeah
Down. Yeah.
uh-huh. So they had a matching snare in the showcase, like the big anvil case with all the different shelves for the snares to show what we can do. One of them was in there, and I was hanging out by the case, and Daniel was like, "Yeah, we got a snare with Shayna on it." He goes, Travis is like, "Yep, that's my wife." It's just like, just naked boobs right over the vent. It's just like that's a lifestyle. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So would you say that that would kind of fall under one of the craziest builds, essentially having a lot of TNA all over the drums?
Yeah, that was. I don't remember any others that were nude. Um, that one was. Yeah, that was the most nudity I remember seeing.
Well, not even just nudes. I mean, just in general, like, would you say, like, what's some of the craziest ones you remember from your time there?
Yeah, the craziest build by far was it was some dude in Thailand, like a prince, I think. I mean, this dude was loaded, and he ordered. You can find pictures of this kit on Instagram. Uh, he wanted red satin flame with black hardware, and it was like a 40-piece kit. And he wanted at least 2 bass drums that were 40 inches deep. So, again, like Max and Jeremy were kind of the inventors. It's like, how do we do a 40-inch bass drum? So, on top of the octobons and the toms and the snares, so they figured out, well, our shells are at the most, I think they were 24 inches deep. Like that's as deep as they would come manufactured. So we uh, we basically put a ring inside and put 2 of them together to
So
make
just
it
basically
40
fused
deep.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. We fused 2 full-length bass drums to make this giant one. And that kit, there were so many pieces, so big. Somehow it shipped and
I
didn't
think
break
it's
in
I think it's
Thailand.
the largest OCDP in existence, I think.
Yeah, it was by far the most gigantic I ever saw. Another one was John Otto's. I don't know what album it was, but it was blue with the trees on it. Um, it was acrylic, and the outside, it was acrylic. Insides of the shells were sandblasted with a decal of the tree. So then, when you pulled the tree off, it was it was, you could see through it, and that was clear, and the outside of the shell was blue. um, and then he had a lamp inside it and the May microphone system, so it weighed like 100 pounds. These things were
Oh,
ridiculous, but when you have a drum tech and his name is Yeti, you don't really care about how much your drum weighs.
no,
Yeti was
why not?
cool. He's huge, and he was very cool with us. I remember going to get burritos with him at the taqueria across the street, but because it's Santa Ana, so
Yeah, duh.
the the Mexican food was amazing anywhere.
Yeah, just avoid the
Uh,
pizza.
ah, I had some good pizza around there too, but not from a Mexican
I was
restaurant.
gonna say I'm spoiled. I'm a little on the I'm in the mecca of pizza world, so a
Right?
little snobby.
Yeah. It doesn't compare.
No.
But
Um,
the John Otto kit and the snares were chrome wrap, 40 ply with blue. What do we call it? Uh, not not glass. It was
is it the candy
candy
colors?
candy
Yeah.
blue. Yeah, the candy blue powder coating on the hardware. So that kit was massive. That was a big one. And then I have another kit story. It wasn't
Yeah,
an
lay it on us.
OCDP, but if you want to save it for
Maybe
Patreon.
we'll save it for the Patreon.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's
It
a good
it was
place
a
for it.
commission. It was a commission job we got. So
Oh yeah. Again, people, if you haven't, go to our Patreon. Um, so the idea of anything, like I remember for the longest time on the catalog, there was always, the only limitation is your imagination.
yeah.
Who came up with the, anything you can think of we can do? Is that something somebody maybe just said, or you guys just like ran with it, or is that something you guys like really prided yourselves on?
Well, who came up with the statement, your imagination is our only limitation? I assume it was Daniel. I don't know for sure who came up with it, but that was the ethos of the company, was we can do anything you can think of, and any challenge was looked at as an opportunity. Um, just again, there was nothing off the table for our own creativity or for people that wanted a kit to come up with ways to make it happen. Like the um, Chad Sexton wanted a kit to look like a tennis ball. So how do you do that? Um, and they figured out you get felt, like the felt that is on a tennis ball, and you had to dye it green, but it would shrink really bad. I don't think the kit ever got made, but we did make, I think, a snare out of it at least. But just like how do you, like people come with visual ideas, like
Hmm.
I want a kit that looks like a tennis ball, or I want a kit that's like Evil Knievel. Like, okay, let's let's
How do
figure
you?
out
Yeah.
what you're, because this is before CAD or like software to come up with this stuff. You look at um, like SJC, they have this software you can put in your idea, like a kit builder, like DW used to have,
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
um, which is rad. I think that's very cool. But we didn't have that. It was just it required your own imagination of like, here's what we have to work with, and even if we don't have it yet, how do we do it? So, like Travis's plaid kit, he wanted a drum where each drum was a different plaid. This was the Pop Disaster kit. Um, how do you do that? You don't really want to use fabric, so they found a computer image of different plaids and put that on the shell, and then we had a separate guy who would do high gloss finishes for us. He glossed it for, that's just kind of a more simple one. But again, somebody wants their drums to glow, and it's like, well, if you sandblast the inside of the acrylic shell and make it hazy, and then you install the halogen or the floodlight in there, it looks like it glows.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
Stuff like that. It was just whatever we could come up with, and then later, uh, Jeremy coming up with the galvanized steel shell for the Nine Inch Nails tour. That it was based off a visual idea. Well, that turned into what would become Q drums. Um, and it just happened to actually sound good.
Yeah, happy mistake.
uh, the another one was, we want the kit to look all burned up and like it's been in a house fire for the There Is music video for Boxcar Racer.
I have it's funny, we'll have to pan later, just making a note. I have it hanging up on the wall. I have that kit from the shop that you guys had. It was thrown in the dumpster if you didn't know. Again,
I
join
did
us on
not
Patreon and
know,
I'll tell people about it.
but that only adds to the character because it looked like it got pulled out of the dumpster when it was brand new. But I mean, that was like, let's make it look real. So we're literally going to take a wrap cutting knife and slash at it, and and put like,
I've heard people throwing batteries at it, spray paint, splatter.
yeah,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
Brandon
and
Steinekert also had a kit on like the '03 Warp Tour with the used. I think he had a kit very similar to that. Like they call it the punk rock finish, I think it was.
mhm. And yeah, just we would come up with, I remember one kit, I think it was a Steineckert kit now that you mention it, but it was acrylic shells with a graphic on the inside of the shell.
Yeah, I think it was their album art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was like, getting that to lay right, and to do it that way, it's not gonna like rip or tear on the outside. It's the good shell on the outside. Um, Less tension. There's not tension pulling on the
Hmm.
graphic. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was the ethos of the shop. Was, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's figure out a way to do it. And
Yeah, it's almost like when somebody walks in with like a doorknob and you're like, build me a house around this. It feels like that it was very much people just like, hey, I want everything to look like this.
yeah, and then there were some times when people had an idea, and we would kind of help them develop it, almost like a tattoo artist. You come in with like, I want this to look this way and this, and it's like, well, okay, I see what you're saying, but that composition isn't going to look right. So let's develop it and work to get you something that is going to be what you want, but is actually going to look better, just because we've had experience with building stuff, and
Hmm.
some people want, their idea perfected exactly how they want it, and it's like, it doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
So let us help, let us help you with your idea.
Yeah. Oh, I think it also adds to like how you're just describing how everything was so tailored and being customized. It's not even just customizing a look, but a sound. I think that's why it also added to, with all the roster, with all the artists on the roster, why I think the music spoke so much more to people because the sound was it was such a tailored thing. You know what I mean?
Well, there was a handful of artists that weren't in that scene that still bought OCDP and played OCDP. Like at the time, I remember Jose Mendelez, who runs the Revival Drum Shop. He was in the Breeders,
Oh,
and he wanted a kit that was like a 1930s sparkle diamond, where it's like a diamond inside a diamond,
full
and
dress is what they used to call it, a full
full
dress.
dress. Yeah, yeah, like a real Chick Webb, Sonny Greer kind of thing. And we did like a traditional size 14 by 26, and I think it was a 3-piece, but it was like a black gloss with, I think, a silver diamond and then a red diamond on it, or it was inset. I forget, but that sound is not the vintage snare sound, but yet he played OCDP, and I think like Adam Willard to another degree he's very much in the punk rock world, but he was coming from a different branch of that, and he played OC, and I think having drummers, the drummer for Rilo Kiley, like the real, uh, it was like an indie band. And other people playing kits or at least snares that weren't of that sound, they were showing like, hey, our drums work for a lot of different sounds too. You know
Yeah.
that regardless of what you think it is that this drum is made for, like it can work in a variety of settings. And the kits, again, they were just made, um, like all the same steps were taken for all the kits. If you were somebody ordering, you know, or if you were a rock star, all the same work went into the kits. So each one that was out there was made to the same quality, and quality speaks.
Hmm. Well, I think it's also, I'm sure that people, when they think Orange County, they think the crazy wild finishes, you know what I mean? Like fur wrap
Mm,
drums, you know what I mean? Things
yeah.
like that. But there's a ton of, just classy, sparkle finishes. Like we'll talk about your kit later, the one that you
Hmm.
had, um, just
Yeah.
super timeless finishes. But I think also because, if you're playing drums with Orange County, it's almost like, well, I can't really get something modest. I feel like I have to get, something
Hmm.
flashy. But I mean, I think Orange County made
Right.
just as many, classic kits as they did,
Yeah.
showstoppers.
Yeah. And I think there was a shift in drum culture, you could say, around 2005, 2006, where a lot more, um, less zany looks were happening, more classic sparkles, even though they were glass, more pearls, especially when OC went to the shark tooth lug design, which was beautiful. There was a sense of class to it, a more timeless look to it. So I remember there was a lot more. natural finishes, darker finishes, not as many tri-wraps that were being promoted, at least by artists, because the scene was changing and, styles were getting a little more classic or darker, you know, and, but OC, again, they made some beautiful classic looking drums that were modern vintage, is what I would call it. Is that there's a vintage vibe, but it's all modern hardware and shells and edges, bearing edges, um, and that's what I love. So
Yeah. I also feel like in that '05, '06 range, there was kind of that shift with the music business. I feel like the rise of MySpace and the do-it-yourself, you know what I mean, was kind of taken over. You could see it was kind of going that way, and like more traditional drums were coming into play. Like the indie scene kind of was coming up. A lot more bands using the, less lively sounds, smaller kick drums. You know what I mean? Like you said, like the style kind of changed a little bit.
yeah, yeah, that things were mellowing out, getting darker in sound. Um, uh, yeah, sort of a reaction to the brightness
Yeah.
of,
Well, it's also
of
like,
the
budgets were different too. I'm sure there was a lot of people that were, like, hey, we can't, like John Otto, like you can't order a 10, 12 piece kit, you know what I mean? Unless you're paying out
yeah,
of pocket. So it's one of those things too,
yes,
like, hey, we can just, uh, a flat black 3 piece that works.
yeah, and that's I think that's another reason why we sold so many tri wraps or flat black, because you know drummers who are world famous who play a 3 piece 12, 16, 22, you're gonna that's a lot more easy to duplicate than a 8 piece John Otto,
Yeah.
frosted acrylic uh thing. It's like we sold a lot of those.
Yeah. Speaking of like what you guys sold, around this time, what was the frequency or like what was build times and lead times like?
As I remember, the length of time to once you ordered a kit to when it was ready, um I think it was like it started out when I was there maybe 2 to 3 months, and then as the business was kind of getting tighter, the lead time was lengthening, which didn't help things. So it would be about maybe 4, even 5 months for somebody to get a kit. Now, sometimes we would be in the midst of wrapping something in a particular color, and we knew about like a one-off snare or a kit that was the same color. We're just like, let's just do this now. So people, it wasn't like we were, you know, trying to help somebody out and not the other. It just worked out where it's like, dude's gonna be stoked. He ordered this snare 2 weeks ago. We're gonna be like, hey, it's ready now.
Yeah, totally.
But
Um,
but yeah, I think there was a shift in wait time. Um, we we had a big influx in that time period of kits and more international shipping, international dealers. I remember Max. We had a French dealer because Max speaks French, so he was
oh,
like our liaison. So I'd walk by and he's on the phone speaking French, and I'm like, he must be talking with Batterie. So I think that was the name or something like that. But just fun one-off stuff.
um, is this around the time where the Guitar Center started to come into play?
Guitar Center, I think, was after my time there. The Guitar Center takeover, because I remember talking with Jeremy um, when I found out about Q drums. I met up with Jeremy, and I went to the shop in San Pedro and got to reconnect with him, and he was filling me in on what was going on with Guitar Center buying the name, and it really led to a detriment to uh, the rep of OCDP. Because I think a lot of people just thought this is cheap Chinese crap. Why would I want to buy this? It's not made in Orange County. It's made in China. What is this? Um, that was before the resurgence of, thanks to guys like you, wanting to remember, wanting people to know, hey, these drums were great. And
Yeah.
they're still great. And like, this was super unique and special. I don't know, 2012, 2013, it was kind of like, it was very hard to sell a drum, an OC drum, uh, for anything that it was worth.
So when did you leave OCDP and why? Did you see the writing on the wall?
Well, it wasn't my choice. I was part of a series of layoffs that took place. I remember there was sort of a wave before me where two or three guys were let go, and then maybe a few months later, me and two other guys were let go. Um, so it was sad for me because I really was enjoying working there. Again, as a young guy, um, I didn't realize just how cool or meaningful it was at the time for some of that, because I was thinking, and I think a lot of us who wanted to be drummers, and things weren't happening as fast as we wanted, we were sort of like, this isn't working how I was hoping. Things aren't happening as fast as I want. Um, so it was funny because right before I was laid off, I'd say for the last year, 8 months, I was really enjoying the work, and I was sort of in charge of powder coating orders, like putting them together and taking them to the shop, and I was doing everything at that point too. I could rap, and I was edging more and more, and I could do all the steps, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed knowing how to do it, and then I was let go. And I remember John, I think, was the one telling me, and he was pretty sad about it too. It's not like there was any ill will. It was just, we can't afford to have this many people working here. And then later, maybe a year and a half later, I was living in LA at the time. I ordered my Champagne Sparkle kit, which we'll talk about later. And I think at that point it was just Max and Robbie Gonzalez. He's a great guy. I don't even think Steve Muncie was there still. It was like skeleton crew in the shop, and Jeremy was still there, but he was teching a lot too. So even before I was let go, you could see things were tightening up. Things were changing. It seemed like maybe more kits were being given away that should have been paid for because we really needed the money. So it was difficult.
Yeah. I mean, how did you feel? So you said you left prior to the Guitar Center stuff. When you
Yeah.
saw them roll out with their first line of like, USA made Guitar Center snares, what was your take on that?
Yeah, I think that first line of GC snares. Were they the lime green sparkle or something like
Yeah, it
that?
was they came out with a few. They were all like 15 ply. It was like a white on white marshmallow snare, lime
Oh, right.
green, silver
Yeah.
glitter, flat black, and a few other.
Yeah.
There was like 3 and 3. I think there was 500 or so of them, per order. More like
Right.
assembly
Right.
line at this point.
Yeah. I I remember thinking 15 ply, that sounds Chinese. because because Keller came in 6 and 10. And if you wanted a 30, we had to, smack three of those shells together. So knowing it was like a 15 ply, it's like, what is that? I didn't bother like looking into them much. I remember seeing one of the vented ones that came out, and just looking at the crap unsanded job of that vent hole. I remember taking a picture of it and sent it to Max, and I was like, "What the hell?" I mean, he was out of there by that time. I mean, this was a couple of years later, but it was just it was sad to see the name, which represented you know top of the game quality, unique, custom, American made, California specific made. That now the name is on a Chinese drum, and it's just like it looks like one, but it's not. So I don't even know what those kits sound like because I just didn't even bother.
Yeah, I just didn't. It's one of those two. I think Guitar Center was hoping that you have these kids that always wanted an Orange County and couldn't afford it. This was like
Yeah.
a means for them to get it, but sadly, I don't think the quality was the thought in mind in making these drums at that time.
And I feel like there were decisions made that were behind the current times, where like the 20-inch deep bass drums, those were not popular. Things were shrinking. Things were going
Hmm.
back to traditional sizes, and I just thought it's dated, trying to do something new like that because it's not even like it's just the name, and then you see a 20 by 20 bass drum, but it's 2012. Like,
Yeah.
why do that? Um, so I mean, I don't want to step on any toes if that's, but I just saw it and I thought that looks 5-10 years ago. That it doesn't look um, cutting edge anymore, like OC
Like it's
used to
almost
be.
like they're trying to take that payday and trying to capitalize, you know what I mean? Guitar Center is like, hey, they used to do this, let's try that.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it felt like for me at least.
mhm,
What do you think
yeah.
could have saved the company?
Um, I guess again, I'm not a business guy, but my thoughts on it were, well, do you remember the SJC? Uh, they were on the show The Prophet,
Hmm.
where the guy like featured drum company, and now SJC is huge, and they are a machine now, and I feel like SJC is the OCDP, more zany, bright predecessor. Like like they went that direction with it, where around 2005, 2006, where the more traditional looks, maybe bigger drums or traditional sizes. classic finishes were coming back. I think at the time C&C was doing that well, and I thought OCDP should go more this way or try to market differently, or just we needed business help. OCDP could have helped with getting ways to change with the times, or you know, I don't know, get somebody to help market differently, or uh, again, I don't know the difficulties. I'm just saying it seemed like something needed to change because it was running on Steam from the past, and you know, there's only, like, even though Travis and Adrian were still playing OCDP, it's kind of like, well, how do we keep young drummers interested? How do we keep, or how do we roll with the times? How do we reinvent ourselves? What needs to happen to keep up with what's happening? Because I mean, it was sad to see that. I mean, it was arguably the most popular, one of the most popular, whether you liked it or not.
Couldn't deny it.
You could not deny OCDP as a force, and to see it fizzle out, and then just market the name. It's, it's it was sad to see.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, when you were there too, not also, like you said, you unfortunately got laid off. Did you also notice that a lot of the artists started to switch as well?
Yeah, a lot of it was like they're just not ordering new kits, or they've gone to Tama, or they've gone to Pearl. Um, um, that there wasn't a lot of continued communication with some of those artists, and it was, yeah, just not as many people coming in, not as many orders coming in, especially when they hear about a long wait time, like 5 months for a kit. It's like, well, I'd rather just get something else, you know. So it just seemed like a lot of artists weren't continuing to order stuff.
So it wasn't ever like an official, hey, I'm gonna go with DW, or because I feel like at that time it was like Adam Willard went to DW, Chad went to Pearl, I think Ray
Hmm.
Luzier went to like D Drum, who was on the rise.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot
yeah,
of
that was
guys they just
after my time that I
okay.
remember, because I think all those guys were still playing OC in 2005.
I feel like yeah, it was like that 05, 06 maybe something in that realm.
Yeah, there was a big fall off there. Um, and a lot was like tour support, or just not being able to keep up, not being able to get the artist free stuff, on the road. Um, and those bigger companies were just able to help more, or they were, looking forward to getting a drummer who's really coming into their own on board with them, and giving them a lot of more new stuff. Um, yeah, that's what I
Or maybe
noticed.
just like you said, style and taste can change, you know what I mean? Maybe they just wanted,
Mm-hmm.
something new, but I'm sure, when Pearl or DW loses an artist, it's whatever. They're just a small fish in the ocean over there, where it's like,
Yeah,
if an Orange County artist was to leave like Chad or Adam Willard, it's like, oh wow,
or even Joey
where's
Jordison back in the day.
oh that's
It's
right,
like
yeah.
it's like, oh, that
I mean,
sucks. He
especially when you
was
have two kick drums,
huge.
it's double the advertisement, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Um, John Otto, he's still He's still,
Yeah, you gotta hand it to him. He's still rocking it. I mean, so is Adrian and Travis, even up to recently. I'll hand it to him.
yeah.
Um, so we're gonna kind of wrap up here. I'm gonna leave you with one last question before we jump over to our Patreon. But
Okay.
this one, I think you kind of touched on it. But did you understand at the time that you were part of what was going to become like a legacy in the drum world?
Mm. I guess at the time, I I didn't think about how big or important it would be in the future, but I knew at the time it was something special and important, and that the drum world recognized OCDP as a major force or a competitor to their, more established brand, and just it was something unique, uh, something organic, something real, that was really special. And looking back at it, realizing that now it is in that legacy status. It's like with a lot of bands, if they just get over that 10-year, 13-year hump, then they get legacy status and they can continue. Looking back now, realizing it really was special and it's long lasting now. And I appreciate that guys like you, or I think Will Driver was the first guy I reached out. He posted a picture of this hollow body with acrylic edges, and the middle was wood hollow body. And I was like, I didn't know who he was. I just messaged him and I was like, hey, I know that snare. Like that was Max's old snare. I recorded with it. He was like, oh,
It's
yeah.
right over here.
Oh, that was a great one. I loved it.
Yeah.
I remember changing the head on it, and I didn't know the acrylic wasn't glued in, so I was holding it up to get dust out of it, and went plonk. Like the acrylic fell out. I was in a studio, and I was just like, no, I'm good. Yeah, put it back in there. But
Well, I'm glad to know Orange County's legacy is you smacking yourself in the noggin with an acrylic piece.
oh man, there were many smacks and many hits in the shop. Shop antics were aplenty, which we can get into some fun stuff. But some of us, like Max and me, we still have physical scars from times in the shop.
You can leave Orange County, but Orange County can't leave you.
Yeah, it made a mark on us permanently, whether we want it or not. But I really am glad that people are recognizing the brand again and seeing just how unique it was at the time, innovative. And again, it wasn't just the look; it was the quality of the build, the quality of the drums were next to none, and it's something that I still take great pride in, knowing that I was fortunate to be a part of it in that time. It was great.
Yeah. Well, Dean, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really cool just, doing a deep dive into, again, one of the coolest drum brands, I think, ever. And it's really cool
Yeah.
listening to the stories. And yeah, everybody, make sure you stick around for the Patreon where we're going to do some, Dean's going to hang out. We're going to do another little deep dive. But where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Again, my name is Dean Cooper, so I'm on there. I think my Instagram is Dean B Cooper. That's where I'm at. So just family stuff, drum stuff, pretty much, fun stuff. So
Right on.
I think you're really cool. I'll send you a random Instagram meme.
I'll look forward to it. Well, again, thank you, man. It's been real, and that's a wrap, guys. Stay tuned for some more. And that wraps up our time with Dean Cooper. From his early influences to the stages he's played and the lessons he's carried along the way, Dean reminded us why drumming is more than just rhythm. It's about the passion and the journey behind every hit. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget, we've got a bonus segment where he dives even deeper into his personal collection and rare stories you won't hear anywhere else. You can check that out right now on our Patreon. Thanks for listening to the Fully Vented podcast. Until next time, keep the stories alive and the drums loud.